2008 and 2009 were a little tougher. I know that they were tougher for a lot of people, not just me. First of all, the news was so heavy. It's still heavy now, and it was heavy before that, but you know, when you flip open a newspaper, when you turned on the TV, it was about ice caps melting, wars going on around the world, earthquakes, hurricanes, and an economy that was wobbling on the brink of collapse, and then eventually did collapse, and so many of us losing our homes or our jobs or our retirements or our livelihoods. 2008 and 2009 were heavy years for me for another reason too. I was going through a lot of personal problems at the time. My marriage wasn't going well, and we just were growing further and further apart. One day my wife came home from work and summoned the courage, through a lot of tears, to have a very honest conversation. And she said, "I don't love you anymore." And it was one of the most painful things I'd ever heard, and certainly the most heartbreaking thing I'd ever heard, until only a month later when I heard something even more heartbreaking. My friend Chris, who I just showed you a picture of, had been battling mental illness for some time, and for those of you whose lives have been touched by mental illness, you know how challenging it can be. I spoke to him on the phone at 10:30 p.m. on a Sunday night. We talked about the TV show we watched that evening, and Monday morning I found out that he disappeared. Very sadly, he took his own life. And it was a really heavy time, and as these dark clouds were circling me, and I was finding it really, really difficult to think of anything good, I said to myself that I really needed a way to focus on the positive somehow. So I came home from work one night, and I logged onto the computer, and I started up a tiny website called 1000awesomethings.com. I was trying to remind myself of those simple, universal little pleasures that we all love, but we just don't talk about enough. Things like waiters and waitresses who bring you free refills without asking, being the first table to get called up to the dinner buffet at a wedding, wearing warm underwear from just out of the dryer, or when cashiers open up the new checkout lane at the grocery store and you get to be first in line, even if you were last at the other line. Swoop right in there. And, you know, slowly over time, I started putting myself in a better mood. I mean, 50,000 blogs are started a day. And so my blog was just one of those 50,000. And nobody read it except for my mom. Although, I should say that my traffic did skyrocket and go up by 100% when she forwarded it to my dad. And then I got excited when it started getting tens of hits. And then I started getting excited when it started getting dozens, and then hundreds, and then thousands, and then millions. It started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I got a phone call, and the voice at the other end of the line said, "You just won the Best Blog in the World award." I was like, that sounds totally fake. Which African country do you want me to wire all my money to? But it turns out I jumped on a plane and I ended up walking a red carpet between Sarah Silverman and Jimmy Fallon and Martha Stewart. And I went on stage to accept a Webby Award for Best Blog. And the surprise and the, just the amazement of that was only overshadowed by my return to Toronto when in my inbox 10 literary agents were waiting for me to talk about putting this into a book. Flash forward to the next year, and the Book of Awesome has now been on #1 on the bestseller list for 20 straight weeks. But look, I said I wanted to do three things with you today. I said I wanted to tell you the awesome story, I wanted to share with you the 3 A's of awesome, and I wanted to leave you with a closing thought. So let's talk about those 3 A's. Over the last few